Hi, I'm Jim Frederick. I'm the professor here at Dojo TV for Kenpo Karate. The style of karate that we're teaching is the Ed Parker's American Kenpo Karate System, which is a modern day street fighting system. The system teaches you basically to survive the attack, and with the extent of the damage that you do to the opponent, meaning when you do your technique, after that you're going to have what's called flight available in all of the techniques. So you try and remain on your feet so you can run away when you're done, even if the technique didn't maim or kill or stop the person in their tracks, or at least detain them long enough where you could be able to get away from them. The system of karate is not a sport-orientated karate. It is a system of self-defense for modern-day street situations. Our first technique this evening is delayed sword. This is against the right hand lapel grab. Mr. Parker didn't make this technique number one because it was a slacker technique. It is a very good technique. It is a block, a kick, and a chop, so it's very simple, but yet it's extremely effective. The move starts out with creating distance, because distance is your best ally when you're defending yourself in a fight, especially for a beginner. So as the person's grabbing, we're going to step back and create distance and limit our target areas on the first move. We're going to stabilize our base. We're going to block with the lead hand, and we have our left hand as our backup. We're going to cat back with our gauging leg, pointing the knee directly at the groin. We're going to deliver our front snap kick, and then we're going to launch our body forward and settle with marriage of gravity on the outward hand sword. At this point, we're going to cover out to a zone of sanctuary, meaning a safety zone. And as I do that, I'm going to use a right front crossover covering my center line. When I say center line, I'm talking about the line, the imaginary line that would run from the tip of your head straight down the center of your body. The guy's grabbing with his right hand. As I step back, already I've used distance as my ally. As he grabs again, I want to make sure I'm blocking with my lead hand, so I'm putting this hand against his body to momentarily slow him up. At this point, I'm going to use my right front snap kick to the groin. Once he grabs his groin, I'm going to launch him to the leg so I get a good leg check and strike the carotid with my outward hand sword, causing him to fall. At this point, then I cover out to my safe zone. So as he grabs, I block, kick, and chop, and cover. As he's grabbing, I block the arm. At this point, he's probably looking up because he's getting ready to shoot the left. I shoot my kick long before the left gets there, and then I'm going to deliver my outward hand sword to the carotid artery. And my leg check against here, you can see how he can't kick because of leg. If I had space here, then his kick has a line to come in. Even if he wasn't trying to kick and he fell from the hand sword, the foot could come into the groin. So, over here, sir. So one more time, we're going to take it a little bit faster, because we're going to block, kick, chop, and cover. Okay, the thing that we haven't talked about yet is what we call the zone of obscurity. Zone of obscurity means basically that you just can't see what's going on. You can create a zone of obscurity in a technique, or you can move your body to a position which creates a zone of obscurity. In this particular case, in delayed sword, the impact of the shot of the groin is probably going to make the guy bend over, and when he bends over, he's not going to see the hand sword coming. That means his body won't be fortified for that shot. So once again, as he's grabbing, a block's kicked. He's not looking, he doesn't see the hand sword come, boom! And that has a tremendous effect on the opponent. If you look at Mr. McCluskey, left neutral bow, sir, shoot a right side kick for me. Okay, this person has skill. When you're fighting someone, you don't know the skill that they have. Therefore, you don't want to test their skill. As Mr. Tom's grabbing with his right hand, already my body has positioned him where he's in a horse stance. Come on, back up, sir. Stand in a real good training horse for me. If I have to fight Mr. Tom, I would prefer to be here, fighting someone of his caliber. Or I would prefer to be here. So as he's grabbing, let's turn on the angle, sir. This way. As he's grabbing and I block, right here, I've got him in that horse stance. Ready for that kick. Come on, back up. One more time as he grabs, and cover. Mr. Tom goes to grab, block, kick, and chop, and cover out to a zone of sanctuary. Let's see why Mr. Parker made that one number one. Our next technique is alternating maces. This is against a two-hand push. Mace in Kenpo means fist, and you're alternating your fist basically in the technique. The technique starts out very similar to the previous technique, delayed sword, meaning the technique will build upon delayed sword. As the person does the two-hand push, you're going to block with the punch. As you block, you're going to create distance, limit your target areas, stabilize your base, your lead hand is blocking, and your left hand is your backup. In this technique, as the push happens, he's too close to kick with my gauging leg, meaning my front leg. So as I push the hands down, I deliver my punch right to the solar plexus. As the person bends over, this hand's going to track my arm. As it tracks my arm, it takes it right to the target, which is the maxillary hinge of the jaw. At this point, I cover out, covering my center line once again, and then to a zone of sanctuary, meaning a safe zone. Mr. McCluskey? Okay, when the person's doing the two-hand push, like push, I go back and I block. I want to make sure I'm getting a good plus on the center line. If you notice, my right hand's even to his center line. So with the block, when I push down, there's the punch to the solar plexus. As he bends forward, my hand's going to track my arm, and I'm going to go from a forward bow to a neutral bow, delivering my back fist. And then I'm going to cover out to my safe zone. So once again, he does the two-hand push, block, punch, back fist. So with the block, as he's pushing, my hand could easily go to a punch if I needed to. Still pull the same move off. So if he had a real aggressive push and the man pushed, it was coming through, my lead hand is already there. The quickest way from one point to another is a straight line. So if he was real aggressive in the push, in other words, usually when guys push in a fight, they push and they're setting up something off of their push. So if you had another situation where the push was real aggressive and the guy followed up off the push, your lead hand's right there and you can take it right into a center line. That's what we refer to as the center line principle. You want to always cover the center line, meaning your center line and your opponent's center line. Mr. Tom's doing a two-hand push, block, punch, deliver the back fist, cover to your safe zone. Now the one thing I haven't talked about in the technique is what we call in Kenpo the elastic recoil. So a lot of people don't understand the elastic recoil. Mr. Tom, training horse facing the camera, please. Thank you, sir. Sometimes in Kenpo, it looks like a person watches from the third point of view, meaning where the bystander is. They'd say, why is the guy hitting himself? So as you see that, I'm going to back fist Mr. Tom in the stomach, fortify your body.
Yeah.
Good. Again.
Yeah.
Good. And again.
Yeah.
The third one had the most oomph on it. It's like a slingshot. In other words, if I pull my finger back and I hit Mr. Tom in the chest, it's nothing. But if I pull it back like a catapult or a slingshot and let it go, it hits with much more power. It's the same idea with a fist. I can back fist, I can back fist, or I can let it recoil off my hand, meaning hold it back like the slingshot. At the same time, if I took a basketball and I hit it against the wall, the ball would come back for a short distance faster right as it immediately came off the wall. I could bounce my hand like that basketball using my body as the wall. So as I back fist, I can use my body when I back fist. I can take the same idea off of alternating maces, meaning from the block, the push down, and the punch. Now my hand is ready to track the arm. It can bounce here, follow along the arm, and then be caught by the fingertips right at the end. So when I'm here, it bounces and then comes off with the back fist. And it makes it much more powerful than just swinging your arm. So once again, he does a two-hand push, block, punch, and there's the back fist. Our next technique is sword of destruction. This is number 3 on our chart, our third commandment in Kenpo. The yellow belt chart consists of 10 techniques, and I always refer to them as the 10 commandments of Kenpo. So this is our number 3 commandment. This is against the left roundhouse or hooking type punch. So anybody that's ever watched anyone fight, growing up people watch TV and they typically normally see boxing and wrestling. So that is what the average person tries to mimic when they fight. Anybody watches a boxer, they tend to lead with their left because most people are right-handed. So, this is a very common attack, I feel. Once again, the technique builds on the previous 2 techniques that we did before this. As the left is coming at us, we're stepping back, we're creating distance, limiting our target areas, stabilizing our base. Same 3 principles. We're blocking with our lead hand, same principle, but different block. This is an extended outward block. And delayed sword, it was an inward block. You had a right hand coming at you in delayed sword. You have a left in sword of destruction. Therefore, you have to use a different block. Your left hand is still your backup. We're going to go back to our gauging leg and deliver our front snap kick to the groin as he bends over, once again launching our mass, settling with marriage of gravity with the inward hand sword on the carotid artery. He should feel nauseous and collapse to the ground at that point. And we're going to cover out to our zone of sanctuary, once again covering our center line, keeping our eyes on our opponent and surveying what's going on around us. So this covered 180 degrees this way, and when I step to reverse, this covers the other 180 degrees survey. So we had a full 360 degree survey around us to see if anyone else was going to jump into the fight who maybe wasn't really a bystander. Just show us our attack once in the air. Okay, so he's trying to take this punch and basically put it right on the maxillary hinge of the jaw. He wants to see that land right on the button. So this could be a possible knockout shot. You want to make sure that you get a good plus on the block when you step back and block it. If your arm's curved down, it might think it's coming at your head and it come low and catch you in the ribs or something in the body. So you want to make sure you're getting a good plus on your block. Let's show that. He throws the punch. So I've got a good plus. At this point, even if he's starting to load up the right, the kick's going to get there first. It's like the punch is traveling on a slight circular motion. It's also his back. Raise back up for me, sir. It's also his back weapon, meaning it's at the back of his body, whereas my right foot's in front. The quickest way from one point to another is a straight line. My right foot is in a straight line directly to his groin and his center line. Therefore, this weapon should land before this weapon does. We've checked off this weapon, and then we're taking him right through the center line with a kick. Once again, sir. And then we deliver our chop and cover out to our safety zone. Shoots the punch, we block. We deliver our kick. He doesn't see what's coming. He doesn't see the hand. So we're striking from a zone of obscurity and then covering out to a zone of sanctuary, meaning our safe zone. Let's take it from another angle, sir. So once again, he shoots the left, blocks, kicks, delivers our chop. Shoots the punch, we block, kick, and chop. Cover to our safety zone. Thank you. And once in the air, the guy shoots the punch, creates distance, limits target area, stabilizes base. We cat back, deliver our gauge and kick, launch with the inward hand sword, settling with marriage of gravity, covering out to our safe zone. Okay, our next technique is deflecting hammer. This is against the right front snap kick, and just like the other techniques, you're going to stay with the same principles as in delayed sword and alternating maces and sword of destruction. You're going to create distance, you're going to limit your target areas, you're going to stabilize your base, you're going to still be blocking with the lead hand, and you're going to have your other hand as your backup. At this point, the principles do change slightly. You're going to launch off your back foot, checking his shoulder, loading the right hand, and you're going to strike him in the face or to any available target on the center line, solar plexus, rib cage with your inward elbow. When I do my technique, I like to cut my inward elbow a little bit on a downward plane, driving the man down, and then we're going to cover out to a zone of sanctuary, covering our center line. Once again, as the kick is coming, I create distance, limit my target area, stabilize my base. I block with the lead hand. I have the other hand as the backup. I launch off the back foot, checking his width. Also, if you're pushing down, you get his height. If you have the two zones checked, the third is automatic, which would be depth. At that point, I'm going to cut my inward elbow on a downward plane, striking him down. Kenpo has strike downs, not take downs. At this point, I'm going to cover out once again, zone of sanctuary. When the technique starts, I have a bad position because I'm basically in a narrow horse stance. Anyone that's done any kind of sparring or freestyle knows that when you're fighting, you want to have you basically sideways to your opponent. You sure don't want to get caught in a horse. So the first thing I'm going to do, as Chad delivers the kick, is get out of the way, create the distance, limit the target area, stabilize the base. Now I've put him in a horse stance and I'm sideways to him. And I'm trying to work, as you can see, work getting around behind him. So I'm trying to get to his zone of obscurity here. At this point, I launch off the back foot. I'm going to check his arm, and then my inward elbow is going to come up and strike him right into the face, cutting down to the mat. And then I'm going to cover up. As he goes to kick, if I'm slow getting off the line, this hand can hit you. So that's why you do need to have your left hand up to be able to check that hand. If, when he's shooting a kick, slow, real slow, I get him while he's in the air. Now when I go to check, it's real easy because you're making the guy fight off one leg. As I check, the elbow then just cuts him straight to the mat. Now when you're practicing your move, I like you to hit into the shoulder and onto the body. The strike is actually going to the face. Going up, Mr. Martin. Left neutral bow. Shoot your kick real slow. So if it's catching him in the face here, you can imagine the impact it's going to have on the back of his head when he hits the ground. Environment is your first consideration in a fight. You have 8 considerations in a fight. We'll get more into them as we get into the tapes. But your first one is environment. Environment is defined as whatever's on you, in you, or around you. So around you can be concrete, ground, gravel. Mox mix makes no difference. Once he gets hit with that elbow and he hits the ground, the back of his head is going to get a whiplash effect and strike the back here. And like I said, it's a hard drive. Once the hard drive shuts down, so does everything else. Left neutral bow. He shoots his kick and puts him down. So I got out of the way, I check the arm, and I move in and I strike. Good. Stay up for me. Let's say the guy cut his head back this way, like trying to weave and bob. At this point, even then, the push into the body, changing the target, is going to still cause the move to work. Okay, our next one is capture twigs. Twigs being arms. In the Kenpo system, and Ed Parker's Kenpo karate system, it's basically another language. Twigs mean arms. Heel palm means salute. Lance means knife. Rod means gun. Club is a storm. So as you begin to learn the names of the techniques, there's key words in there that we as Kenpoists use amongst us when we train. In this one, capture twigs is a rear bear hug. I'm going to turn to the side as I demonstrate this for you in the air, and then I'll turn back to 12 and show it that way. As the person would be grabbing, I'm going to trap their hands so they don't come up around my throat. When I say trap, trap means momentarily detained. Pinned would mean I've got them, you can't move them. Well, when a guy grabs you with 2 hands and your left hand comes on top, it's going to be trapped and you just know where they are basically for that split second of time. So if he was to try and pull them out, maybe come around your throat or something like that, or drop down and pull out your legs, any of the above, you're at least going to be able to feel the hands leaving your body. As you increase your skill, your sensitivity will increase also, and you'll be able to feel the hands pulling and releasing. Mr. Parker used to say that when after a while performing the art, as years and years and years go on, it becomes almost when you would get into combat that the person would be moving in slow motion. And it takes, I guess, time for people to understand something like that. You just have to experience the art. Anyway, in a rear bear hug, I'm going to trap the hands and I step out and I hammer fist to the groin. I want to make sure that the left foot and the hammer fist are timed right at the same moment. As this foot hits the ground, the right hand is hitting the groin. So as I step, I hammer fist the groin. As I'm doing that, my head is also going to catch the guy with a headbutt if at all possible. He could tuck his head and you not get that one. At this point, I'm going to stomp on his foot and try and break the metatarsal part of his foot, and I'm going to check his width. Right here, I'm using what we call an open-end triangle. From the stomp on the foot, I'm going to step back to his center line, and I'm going to heel palm to the groin, claw with my left hand as I deliver an obscure elbow to his chin. At this point, if he's falling to this direction, which would be my 6 o'clock, I'm going to step with my left foot and then create distance from him, covering my center line. One more time, let's look at that from 12 o'clock. Once again, I'm grabbing with a rear bear hug. I'm going to step out, catch him with that hammer fist. Then I'm going to also try and get him with the headbutt. And then I'm going to turn my hips into a cat stance, but it's going to be a flat-footed cat, stomping his foot. From this position, I'm going to move back to a center line and heel palm him in the groin and elbow him in the chin. He's going to fall backward to 6 o'clock. At this point, I cover with my left foot, or I can round the corner with my right foot. Chad's grabbing me from behind. As he does that, like I said, my left hand comes on top. I step out with the left foot, and I'm going to glue my buttocks to his thigh, striking him with my head and my hammer fist in the groin. At this point, I'm going to claw and check as I stomp on the foot. And then as I come off the foot and I move back into the center line, I'm going to rip and heel palm and elbow him right in the chin. If he didn't fall, say he just stepped backward, at this point I want to get away from him as quickly as possible. So I'm covering my center line and creating distance. Come on, back up. Once again, he grabs, so I trap, hammer fist, stomp, heel palm, elbow, and cover. Once again, Mr. Chad grabs, I trap, I step out, headbutt and hammer fist, heel palm and stomp. As I claw, creating that zone of obscurity, I'm going to strike him in the groin and heel palm him and elbow him in the chin. Cover out. So I trap, headbutt and hammer fist, stomp and heel palm, claw, heel palm and elbow, cover out. And one more time. When you're practicing these techniques, you want to use extremely good focus. Do them a couple times slowly before you try and do them fast. Let your partner see how to react to them. Safety is very important. You only get one set of eyes, and it would be a shame to lose them trying to learn how to defend yourself. It's tough to go out on a date with no chompers. So keep your teeth, keep your eyes, practice safely. Thank you. Okay, our next technique is grasp of death. This technique is against a headlock. Guy has a good firm headlock. As the story goes, when the doctor gave you a good swat on the keister and you began that trek of life, out went that mucus shooting across the room. And in this technique, this guy is trying to make it your last breath in life. So that's why it got the name, I guess, grasp of death. So in grasp of death, I'm in a headlock, so he's trying to prevent me from breathing. The first thing I want to do is I want to turn my head so I can breathe. It also takes a lot of the pressure off the front of the neck and a little bit off the carotid. And I want to tuck my chin, and I want to be able to bite him. If I bite, there's still space on the side of your mouth where you can breathe. So as you're biting him, and he's going to squirm and he's going to move away from you, that's going to open up what we call daylight. And when there's daylight, you can then breathe and be able to move and get your head out of that position, because you got yourself in a really bad position. And the first thing we need to regain is position besides being able to breathe. So here I am, I'm in the headlock. As I grab the wrist and I step up, I'm going to collapse my knee on his and get a good firm grasp on his leg, like a horse bite. That's what it's going to feel like when I pinch. If you get the thigh, behind the knee, testicles, different size people, you're going to have to grab whatever you can get in there. But the idea is you want to make him kind of move that leg for you. As he's moving that leg, it's creating that space once again, besides the horse bite to the ribs there. I also want to be pulling on his wrist to get it off my neck. So I'm in that headlock and I step, boom, and I get a good firm grab on his leg, and I also want to pull my back backward so I get good posture. At this point, my left hand's going to slide up his back, forming a plus right on the spine. As I bring my head over, I've got a plus right across this tricep. At that point, I step and I nail his head right to the concrete. And I'm going to slide my hand right down to the elbow using what we call the squeegee principle. At this point, I'm going to deliver my punch right to the maxillary hinge of the jaw. And at this point, I'm going to get rid of his arm if it's still there and he hadn't fallen to the ground. And then once again, I'm going to cover out, covering my center line, counterbalancing my weight, and then create distance to a zone of sanctuary. So here I am, I'm in a headlock. I turn my head. I can bite him then, and he'll move, believe me. At that point, biting him and pulling down the wrist, as I step and I get a big hump on that leg, he'll probably pull that leg. All this has to happen at once. Come on, back up. So as he grabs, once I've done this, this left hand slides right up, and I nail his head right to the ground. Once his head's nailed to the ground, I pull him in kind of like a tuna and deliver that shot right to the hinge of the jaw. And cover out. So I'm in the headlock. I pull, got the option of biting in here or not biting. As I step, my knee goes into his, I grab his, he pulls his forward. I slide my hand up. As I bring him down, I slide my hand right on that elbow. Close in on this here, please. As I slide right on that elbow, my hand doesn't come off the elbow. It's like a squeegee in a gas station moving right across. When I use a squeegee, stay there, Mr. Chad, it uses a path of action. This is a path of action. I'm sliding the heel palm onto the elbow. At this point, go ahead and stand up, Mr. Chad.
Yes.
Obviously, he can't get up. At this point, my hand follows, it tracks like a train moving along a railroad track right to the station, which is his jaw. At this point, I get rid of his arm. And now I'm in a good position to keep fighting if I need to, or I can leave. Okay, if, say from the pinch, he doesn't move his leg, the leg check on his leg is going to suffice here, because some guys can take that pain in the leg, so he might stand his ground and just try and squeeze real tight and kind of pop your head like a pimple. So we don't want that to happen. So as I grab his wrist and I step in and I grab the inside of his leg, he doesn't move his leg, I'm going to capitalize on that and use good posture and ride him right to the ground. At this point, it's real tough for him to hit. And I can keep fighting with the technique. At this point, I slide my squeegee principle right onto that elbow. If he's trying to get up in the fight, I can put his head right to the ground if I want. Deliver my punch right to the jaw. If I don't want to hurt him at this point, I can even go to something else where I can trap and hold him here and have my hands free. Okay, our seventh commandment of Kenpo, so to speak, is checking the storm. I always refer to the 10 yellow belt techniques as the 10 commandments of Kenpo because they govern the rest of the system of Mr. Parker's. All of the system builds off of the 10 yellow belt techniques, and our seventh commandment is checking the storm, so to speak. It's against a right overhead club. In this one, I want everyone to remember that if a person has a club, they're not going to keep you at arm's length, they're going to keep you at club's length. And that's something that is definitely needs to be remembered. If the person is swinging a right overhead club at me, I'm going to move out of the way and deliver a left front snap kick to their groin, and I'm going to shield my face with my left hand, making an extended outward block, but at the last second, my hand's going to open up, creating a knife hand to strike the person's wrist, so the block really becomes a strike. At the same time, this hand comes up and is protecting your face. I refer to it as the loading hand. I'm loading this hand because if all goes wrong, I'm going to pop him right in the nose. We'll go back to it, kind of your mom said to you when you were a little kid about the big kid picking on the little kid. Nothing else. Punch him right in the nose, create that zone of obscurity. And mom was teaching you to punch still right at the center line. So, you know, if mom says it's true, you know to believe it. Mom always knows best. So as the club's coming at your head, we get out of the way. Front snap kick right to the groin. As he bows to you and grabs that groin, we're going to shift and deliver a right side snap kick to the inside of the knee, and then a back fist to his face. At this point, I'm going to cover out to my zone of sanctuary, covering my center line. I keep reinforcing that term about covering the center line and going to your zone of sanctuary. Zone of sanctuary means your safe zone. You want to get out of arm's reach, out of legs reach, and you want to make sure your center line is covered until you're out of that reach. I want you to swing the club real slow first. So I'm moving off to this direction in a cat stance, and if you notice, I've now got him in the horse stance. This hand's loaded and checked for that shoulder if he's going to shoot that left. Even if he was to shoot the left, this foot's going to get there first. Now, at that point, as I shift, I may need to move his head out of the way to deliver the side kick and the back fist. If he's holding on still to the club, I can always take the club as I leave. Once again, swing real slow. As he swings, I got out of the way. My hand's up shielding myself. I deliver my front snap kick to the groin. I move his head out of the way. I can always take the front leg, too, and move off behind him, delivering my back fist. There's no law that says you can't plant behind the guy and take the front leg if you can't reach the back leg. At this point, the way his arm is, I've got to really some neat ideas for it, but we're just going to kind of check it out of the way and cover out because it's really not in our way. Real slow. As you swing your club, I'm not going to move. I want to show the length of the club. Good. That's about where he's trying to hit from. I can't reach him right now, so that's where he's looking to have you. when he goes to swing the club. Stay there. I need to get positioned. So I'm pushing off the left foot to get the kick to the groin. So you can see the angle of entry. That's what I'm looking for. I want him back in that horse stance. Go back to your left neutral. Now, as Chad swings his club this time, I'm going to have him swing real slow. And he's going to follow me with the club as I move off. Swing real slow. So that's why your hand needs to be deflecting it and moving it out of the way. So you have a clear path to move through. If I don't do that, and even though I deflect the club, swing slow, and it hits my wrist, it can still come in and jam me up. I might have deflected it from hitting me, and it like get a glancing shot and not have anything on it, but that's because my hands doesn't have anything on my hand. Sometimes when you're blocking and you're thinking about the club, you're thinking about getting out of the way so much, your hands doesn't have the proper torque on it to keep the club from hitting you. So as he swings his club, that time I kind of got on Chad's nerves. He feels it all the way up his arm because I struck his radial nerve. If he's swinging this way, you're going to strike his ulnar nerve. Either way, it gets on your nerves and it goes right up your arm. One more time now. Let's swing from a different angle. As he goes to swing his club. When it's done that way, the technique is done that way, you don't need to worry about taking the club because the club's not going to be there. As you hit the nerve and you hit him in the groin, it just automatically releases and goes flying. Now, if it hits a bystander, that's not your fault. So just go over and beat him up a little bit more if you have to because it hit the bystander. Thank you. Okay, our next technique is an extremely aggressive technique. It's called mace of aggression, properly named. This one we're going to utilize what we call borrowed force. The person's pulling us in with two hands, and we're going to borrow his force and use it against him. The harder he pulls us, the more it's going to hurt him. It's that simple. In this technique, because you're being pulled forward and you're borrowing his force, you have to step forward. I've seen the technique done where you kick the leg out. I personally don't like that version of the technique. I've never been real fond of it. But in Mr. Parker's era, they used to wear these boots where they kind of came halfway up the ankle. And if I could see Mr. Parker kicking that guy's leg out and catching him with mace of aggression, and I could really see the explosiveness of why he liked it that way. Remember, Kenpo is an art that is tailored to fit the individual. You do not have to fit the art fits you. So therefore, I prefer a leg check when I do the move, and I'll show both ways when we're doing it with the help of Mr. Martin over here. Okay, Mr. Chad, come over here and let's do the grab from this angle real slow. He's grabbing me with two hands. As he pulls forward, my left hand's coming over at the same time. I'm getting a leg check and striking the face, creating that zone of obscurity. Pull back up. If he grabs and it's a taller person, you can kind of pick this arm up on the way and get an arm break. Chad and I are about the same height. It's not going to be real easy to pick the arm up and get an arm break, but if I still hit his arm, it's going to spring load my right hand. So it's going to actually put more torque on the shot to the temple that's going to rake the eye socket and the bridge of the nose. So I do like to pick that arm up on the way with my elbow. Whether I get to break it or I don't makes no difference, but I do like to try and do that when I do the move. My left hand's going to come over top, trapping the hand so he doesn't have the option of striking me in the face anymore. So with that motion, pause for 1 second. My left hand's coming up and my right hand's doing this when he's pulling me. So I'm not going backward to go forward to hit him. I'm raising my hand up to come down. I'm timing it with my right foot coming down, so I'm getting a marriage of gravity effect along with the idea of him pulling forward. So between the two compounded principles, this is going to give us what we call directional harmony in our motion. So as he pulls forward, my right hand comes up with the motion of my left hand coming up. Kind of like I'm bringing my hand up on the wrong side of my body to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So as I bring my hand up, I come right across his face, and I've created that zone of obscurity. At this point, he's going to want to grab his face real bad, and I've got his hands trapped. So I'm going to borrow that idea of him wanting to grab and clear his hands down, strike with my elbow. At that point, I'm going to cover out once again, showing a real good counterbalance as I step. So as he pulls forward, I bring my hands up and I strike his face. I roll him in, strike with the elbow, load it and shoot the outward elbow, bring my hands up, cover out. Real simple idea. Keep the hands up. Doesn't matter who it is, male, female. Good fighter always keeps their hands up unless you're trying to bait someone in. In this technique, the person's already fooled you. No reason to be baiting. They're already there. Keep your hands up when you're leaving. As he's pulling me forward, I trap and strike right across the face. If you notice and you look down, he can't kick me in the groin. I can also use that to bring his head forward into the fist. So I'm borrowing that idea also, which is going to give me colliding forces on his face. This is raking, coming right across that eye socket, taking this bridge of the nose. At this point, that's why I said he's going to want to grab real bad, and I say, no, you're not. And then I'm going to cover out. It's the idea of you burned your hand on a stove, and you want to grab what's burnt, and then someone doesn't let you. But this time what burns is your face, and the guy doesn't let you grab your face. One more time, real slow. He grabs, I trap and strike, getting a good leg check, bringing him in, caught him with the elbow. If his head's back real far from the shot of the elbow, it looks like you can't reach him. Sure you can. You just got to bounce off of his arm. And then if he's still there, this could claw as you would go to leave on your counterbalance. One more time. Pulls me in, strikes, clears, hits, and covers. One more time. When he pulls me in, watch how I'm utilizing the leg check. One more time. He pulls me in, I hit. Bring his hands in, caught him. Catch the arm, caught him. As I go to leave, if he's still there, I have a sweep on the foot if you need it, because your foot's right up against his leg check. One of the things we haven't talked about, turn this way, sir, is when this hits the leg, look at the impact, what's happening here in the leg. Now imagine him pulling you in real aggressively with that strike right there with your foot just coming in right into that leg. So as he pulls me forward, we hit, brings him in, caught, out. So you're catching him with both the shots on the elbows. Bam, bam. Once you hit it once, it's unfortified and it drops. When you're catching him again with the elbow, it's going to do an incredible amount of damage. One more time. Hits, brings him in, caught, slips through, catches on the other side of that jaw. Now as I go to leave, I put the hand in his face, and I've got the sweep. And once real slow to this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, and don't forget to put your hands up. Okay, our ninth technique is attacking mace. This is written against a right step-through punch. When I practice techniques that are for a right step-through punch, I do practice them off the backhand, and then I practice them off the lead hand. We're going to demonstrate for you in just 1 minute. This is, like I said, against the right step-through punch. So as the punch is coming at me, I'm still creating distance. I'm limiting my target areas. I'm stabilizing my base, blocking with my lead hand, and then I use my backup hand, punching him right into the rib cage. At this point, ideally, he goes backward. My hand comes over with a waiter's hand, slides right down the wrist. As I grab, it's like I'm pulling him back into the roundhouse kick, and then I'm delivering a punch right to the kidney area. At this point, even though I've got a hold of his wrist, he might slide out, fall to the ground. If he didn't, I'll heel palm and check his shoulder, which should put him to the ground as I'm sweeping his foot, covering out to my zone of sanctuary. Okay, Mr. Chad's in a left neutral bow. He's going to do a right step-through punch slowly. I create distance, limiting my target areas, stabilizing my base. At this point, I punch him right in the rib cage. I come over top with my waiter's hand. I say, hey, you come back here. Roundhouse kick, give my leg check, blast to the kidney, and cover out. Come on back up. Take it from another angle. Once again, no, still step through. Mr. Chad does the right step through. I created distance, punch to the rib cage, come over top with my waiter's hand. If his head's in there too close, I can do an eye slice, pull down, roundhouse kick, get my leg checked, deliver my punch right to the kidney area, and cover out. This time when we do it, right neutral bow, sir. Stay right there. If the guy were standing here shuffling, show the punch. Good. That's much more dangerous, a person fighting like that. Why? Kenpo principles come into play. Quickest way from one point to another is a straight line. This is where the opponent is. This is where he wants to come. So that's where he's looking to go. That's the quickest way from point A to point B. If the person's right-handed, then his lead hand's in front. That's real dangerous. That's kind of the way a Kenpo man thinks. If it's a boxer, he's setting you up with a jab, which means he's probably a southpaw. That means he's left-handed and he keeps his power hand back, where he's trying to mimic what he's seen on TV, which is boxing, and then shoot this left at you. So we're going to take that idea right out of the way immediately. We're going to just ruin his day right off the bat and make him not test his skill, speed, or strength by creating the zone of obscurity. As he wants to take this punch and basically run it right into my face, actually probably about 6 inches back here through my face, I'm going to let him punch what we call it the ghost image. So he shoots his punch, boom, and he gets hit right in the face, right in the kisser there. One more time. He shoots his punch, boom, right into the face. Now basically what I'm doing is his punch is coming at me, I'm here. But then as I move my back foot, I'm now here, and now I've got the angle of entry right in here on his center line. If you notice, when he gets hit, he can't see. He's going to want to grab his face. That's when I go to the rib cage. Come over top, roundhouse kick, and finish the technique the same way you started. Come on back up. Let's take it a little bit faster. He shoots his punch. Real slow for me this time. I want to talk about cause and effect. As he's shooting his punch, right here, I've created that zone of obscurity and hit him in the temple or the eye socket. He's definitely going to want to grab his face. As he grabs his face, I want to affect his breathing. So as I hit him in the ribs, I'm breaking a rib, trying to drive that rib into his lung. This is going to come over with a waiter's hand, possibly slicing the eye, coming down the wrist, pulling him into that kick to the groin, getting that leg check, trying to break that leg there with a leg check. As I glue this to the hip, boom, I do my punch to the kidney area. Right there, he has no idea if I want to continue fighting what would be coming. And I just say, show mercy and leave. Okay, for our 10th commandment of Kenpo, sword and hammer. Definitely named properly. This technique is a very easy move, and I always like to say the easy moves would seem to work in the heat of battle, especially when fear takes over. A lot of times people don't like to talk about fear, but fear can fuel you too. When you're fearing for your life or someone that you care about, other things don't come into play other than getting the job done if you train properly. This person's grabbing me from a zone of obscurity on my shoulder, meaning from a flank. As he grabs, I'm going to trap the hand on the shoulder, and I don't want to take the long way around the mountain when I go to bring my hand to my shoulder. It's just right up my hands, tracking my own body. As that's happening, my right foot's going to be stepping to the person's center line, and as my left hand's coming up here to my shoulder, my right hand's going to be traveling up to his throat. So both hands are making the same motion. My right foot, like I said, will be stepping to a center line, and I'm going to be dropping my height, so I'm settling in my stance. This way I'm going to get a reverse marriage of gravity effect, which is going to cause him to lift his head from the shot to the throat because I'm dropping low. So when I drop, boom, I'm hitting upward to make him not be able to see me at the same time, affect his breathing. So I'm getting two things for one shot. That's economy of motion, when you get 2 for 1. At this point, my right hand, whether he's grabbing his throat or he doesn't grab his throat, if he's grabbing his throat, I'm moving his hands away from his throat. So once again, I'm not letting him grab the other hand as if he burned it on a stove. In this case, it's his throat, so he's not going to be allowed to grab his throat. As he's not allowed to grab his throat, I hammer the groin, and then my right hand's going to come up and clear his face if his face is in the way, or if nothing's in the way, then I'm just covering my center line as I cover out to my zone of sanctuary. He's taking his left hand, he's grabbing my shoulder, and he's pulling me. And you can see what he wants to do. He wants to pull me into that fist. So as he's pulling me into the fist, first of all, this hand coming up does help to shield the face, but the main thing it's doing is trapping this hand because this hand can hit me too. Now, everyone sees this one, but I'm more concerned about this one because that's closest to my what? My hard drive. I don't want to get the hard drive shut down. So as he's pulling, I'm trapping and striking up into his throat. As this hits him in the throat, that right hand's now canceled, and I don't want to let him grab as I hammer to the groin. Like I said, my hand can come up and hit the face and clear that arm as I go to leave. One more time. He grabs the shoulder and pop, and out. One more time. He grabs, so we hit to the throat, hammer to the groin, and cover. Real slow, he pulls. I bar that and strike to the throat, so I'm utilizing borrowed force. I move his hand away and I hammer to the groin. Take the eyes, continuing to create that zone of obscurity, clearing the arm, and covering out. One more time, Mr. Chet. And cover. The idea, when he grabs, and I hit him in the throat, this is crushing his esophagus. This is shattering his jaw, possibly making him bite on his own tongue, choke on his blood, having a real bad day. As he's hit here, he wants to grab that. I say, no, you're not grabbing that. And whop! That'll keep him from reproducing another like him. This is coming up, taking the eyes, and as I take this hand, I can always continue to go back to something else that we know from the yellow belt chart. And then cover out. This completes our yellow belt chart. I hope all of you had fun. I hope you continue to train hard, train regularly, train intelligently, and not make any excuses about your training. I'd like to say the yellow belt pledge for you, or the creed for the Kenpo system. I come to you with only karate, empty hands. I have no weapons. Should I be forced to defend myself, my principles are my honor. Should it be a matter of life or death, right or wrong, then here are my weapons, karate, my empty hands. Ed Parker.